This is Sparta!
Hey there YouTube, I'm
This is the Yukitsu.
Times. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to a bit more Rome 2 Total War, going over the factions one by one, and right now we're up to Sparta, the famous Spartan army. So what we've got here is a very sort of limited army. They're very one-dimensional, and everyone's sort of extremely high quality, but they pay for that by being one of the least versatile armies on the ground here. So going over the generals, they're one of the only factions I can think of off the top of my head, and I think they might be the only one that has no cavalry mounted general of any sort. They've got the Heroes of Sparta and they've got the Royal Spartans. Now, the Heroes of Sparta have slightly better stats in some ways, slightly worse in others compared to the Royal Spartans, but they come in a much smaller unit, which is why they're a lot cheaper than the Royal Spartans. So, personally, of the two, I prefer the Royal Spartans for my general. But you can use either depending on how you want to put them in combat or what you want them to be doing. Either of them are pretty decent at shoring up the faltering part of the line. Now, going over their spear infantry, this is sort of what Sparta is based around. You've got the Spartan youths, which are sort of a throwaway unit. I wouldn't really recommend ever using them for any reason other than maybe guarding your backlines a little bit. There's perioikoi spears. These are the ones that are much more useful than the Spartan youths. They're actually pretty decent if you want to use a unit to just sort of intercept or hide against cavalry or what have you. Perioikoi hoplites, they can be used to hold a line, but I wouldn't recommend using them in particular. Spartan hoplites. What's weird is that these guys are technically weaker, well, they just outright are weaker than the Athenian hoplites, so I'm not actually sure why that is, but they're not actually that great for their cost. You are going to find sometimes that you're going to wind up using a lot of them, other times you're going to not use very many of them. Heroes of Sparta, you can only take 2 of them per your army. I don't actually know why they're limited at all, honestly, because the Royal Spartans are, you know, in my view, Royal Spartans are just a better buy due to the bulk of their unit by contrast. So, Royal Spartans are the sort of cream of the crop of the army here. They're incredibly good, and they're really, really hard to kill. Probably one of the most durable units in the game here. You can use them to sort of make part of your line virtually impossible to get rid of. Moving on here, we've got the pike infantry, perioikoi pikemen, and then the Spartan pikemen. And inverse to the hoplites, the Spartan pikemen are ridiculously efficient, and I'm not entirely sure why. They make a pretty good backbone unit if you want to play as the Spartans. So you could use Spartan pikemen. They fight in that sort of more Macedonian style, and then shore that up with Royal Spartans at a few places. I've noticed some people like to spam Spartan pikemen. I'm not actually sure I believe that's all that effective, but it sort of depends on what you're good at and what you're not. Next up, we've got missile infantry. Spartans have got the pretty standard selection compared to everybody else. It's pretty much normal. The only exception is that the only unit that can use flaming projectiles are these perioikoi peltists. The helots, who are the slave class of Sparta, don't have any real special abilities whatsoever. They don't actually, the helot archers can use flaming projectiles, but essentially these guys are extra sort of lousy for a skirmishing unit set, so they kind of rely on them, but don't expect them to do very much. For melee cavalry, Spartans only have citizen cavalry, and these guys are decent enough, they can do the job, but they're definitely one of the weaker factions cavalry-wise. Range, you've got skirmisher and Tarentine cavalry as normal, and then same artillery as always. So with such a small unit selection, Sparta is actually kind of weird to play as. They're not as interesting as you would think they are, but they are pretty strong since their units are very strong. Moving into the campaign map here. Okay, Sparta. It's one of the Greek states. It's classical heritage +2 to cultural conversion. Fierce independence test +10% melee defense for all units when fighting in own or allied territory, as per same as Athens. And their faction bonuses: Spartiate warriors, +1 experience ranks for Spartan infantry recruits. Now, it's important to note that you don't get that bonus for all Spartan units. It's only the actual ones that say Sparta in the unit name. So the Spartan hoplites, for instance, or the Sparta Royal hoplites or whatever, those all get that +1 experience rank. Things like helots and perioikoi don't. Next is their faction penalty, the Laconic Austerity. minus 10% wealth from industrial and commerce buildings. This is to represent that the Spartans themselves didn't work and that a lot of the industry is taken over by relatively unmotivated helots. And lastly, they've got helot repression, which is minus 25% servile unrest. Sparta is actually known for having had a large slave economy, perhaps larger than the other Greek city-states, and to represent that, the Spartans became very good at repressing helot rebellions and repressing the helots, so I think that's sort of what they were going for there. Anyway, let's just hit start campaign. Okay, here we are in Lyconium, here we are in Sparta. We've got this provincial bonus here, the statue of Zeus at Olympia. It is a wonder to look upon the face of a god. It's got plus 3% wealth from cultural buildings faction-wide, and if we use the Bread and Games Edict when we control the entire region, we get plus 6 public order, which is tremendous, tremendous bonus here. So Sparta itself is a marble-producing town, but as you'll notice that this is not actually the region capital. Athena is the region capital, and they've actually got those walls there that help them hold off Sparta for a considerable amount of time in the wars prior to this. Looking at our armies to the start, to the north, we have the Perioikoi. Perioikoi actually means people who live around, essentially. There are people who lived in Lyconium but didn't live in Sparta, Lyconium being the sort of region here. The actual Spartan army, of course, contains Spartan hoplites, Spartan royal guards are general in both cases, and then we've got some helots. Whereas this one, the Perioikoi are decent enough, so we're going to start off at war with Epirus. So typically what you're going to find people doing is blitzing Larissa. I'm just going to try and get some vision up there. Trying to remember the fastest way to get my spy up here. Yeah, it looks like the road. You can actually cross this narrow inlet of water there. So if you see, I can actually move my army. Well, I can actually move my army back and forth there. It looks like it's faster to go the other way, so I just want to see the movement radius of Epirus here. And it looks like I can move just...
Ready for battle!
I want to keep my guys just out of the movement radius of those guys,
Commander,
but within attacking range next turn.
at your command.
I think if I move them up here it works, but I can't recall.
Commander, your next command.
Okay, so once I've done that, I can recruit units. The Spartan recruitment at the start is pretty much just all Perioikoi. As you can see, if I move this army into Sparta itself, if I recall, it's still just Perioikoi, but I'm not... Yeah, it's still Perioikoi. So one of the things that you want to do as the Spartans is upgrade this to the Holosideros barracks, which lets you recruit those Spartan hoplites. Once again, you get that by just doing some basic research into the organized supply. The thing is that the Perioikoi are actually good enough that they're going to last you for quite some time, even though they're not as good as Spartans. But the thing is that you're still definitely going to want to upgrade to Spartans. Let's see here.
How may I serve you?
Just going to want to start gaining experience for our agent here, so we're going to poison their provisions here. That way, if they're going to attack us right away, they'll be a little bit weakened, maybe. Okay.
It is done.
So as you can see, we're not making a whole lot of money as Sparta, and that's partly because of Laconic austerity, and that's also because we've only got a minor regional province at the start here. So we're gonna go right ahead and start upgrading these. Actually, let's yeah, we got a little bit of fruit surplus. We'll upgrade that first. So let's hit end turn here. Now Epirus has a bad habit of just sending in their general that has an elephant army into Larissa to help defend it. Well, I wouldn't say that's a bad habit, it's just a habit that they have, and that tends to make things a little bit tricky. So if we're lucky, they'll get drawn into some sort of nonsense.
I make the offer of peace
Athens,
only from a position of...
So what they're going to do is, yeah, they're just sort of, oh no, they've, I think they're at war with Macedon as well right now, yeah. So you start off with a defensive treaty against Epirus with Macedon, and that sometimes gets you a lucky streak where the forces of Epirus are forced northwards to deal with forces from Pella. And that's random. Sometimes Macedon won't be at war with them, or they'll have a peace treaty and they'll just basically cover the city of Larissa in troops. The other thing that happens sometimes is Epidamnos often declares war on Epirus. Epirus, if you're playing as Epirus, is awful. Everyone hates you immediately and your army sucks, so it's a bit rough going. But what sometimes happens is that their capital gets attacked by Epidamnos right away, and they can't do anything to really get out of the way there. So let's get our Spartan army up here.
Besieging settlement. Let them cower
Now,
like
he
kennel
could attack
dogs.
here. It looks like he'd be able to reinforce.
Laying siege to the
Gonna
settlement.
lay siege here and just keep that way. What we're going to do here is give our military sabotage a chance.
They will never know.
If this succeeds, then we're gonna have a much easier time since that reinforcing army won't be here. Nope. Okay, so we're gonna need some more troops. Let's hire. It's just mercenary hoplites ought to do. So we're gonna keep Larissa under siege and probably attack it, but first off I want to sort of see where my money's going to be going here. It looks like Epirus is trying to attack me in my hometown, just like I'm attacking him in his hometown. We're going to build a farm here. That's all I can really build, so let's go right ahead and attack Larissa. So what we might want to do in this particular case, since this elephant army is utter nonsense at this phase of the game, is just sack Larissa's town center. Take it out before they can respond, and hopefully capture it before the elephants get there. But this is going to be an approximation of the sort of early Spartan style of fighting. As you can see, they've still got some of their iconic troops. Those Royal Spartans as well are excellent troops. So this shouldn't be too bad, but you never know how things are going to go. Should just mention, when you are fighting elephants, try and use javelins against it as much as you can. Even once they're in melee, javelins tend to hit elephants more than they'll hit other units, so don't be afraid of friendly fire on account of it. They're the size of a barn. I mean, you're not going to miss an elephant, are you? So try and bog them down maybe with the perioikoi if necessary, and then just try and grind straight through them as best you can. Now, since my opponent here does not have hoplites of his own in the city itself, if I rush the center with the mercenaries, I might be able to get a considerable number of enemies before those mercenaries go down. And the reason, of course, that I want to sacrifice the mercenaries first is because, well, if they all get killed, that's perfectly fine by me. Okay, so let's get our guys behind there.
Slingers!
And let's get these guys up here, like that.
Ready for orders.
Okay.
Advance at speed.
Okay, so we're just going to try and blitz the town center. The reason I didn't deploy on the other side is I kind of suspect that the Epiran elephants are coming in to reinforce from the other side back there.
Enemy reinforcements
I'm
approaching.
on Legendary, so it's hard for me to pan around the screen to check for sure, but that's what I'm pretty certain is going on here. Alright, let's get our hoplites. Oh, those are militia hoplites.
Pelots! Missiles awaiting targets. Javelin men! Fire on the enemy! Sparta! Hippias! Double time!
So those iconic red cloaks that you're all used to seeing the Spartans in are pretty much reserved for the Royal Spartans. It's not something that every Spartan really got to have.
By your command!
These guys are tough. They'll be able to soak up enough missile infantry shots that I don't really think I'm too worried about them taking hits.
Up at speed! Spartans!
Yeah, they can take them off.
Ready for orders!
And we're just going to try and pan around here to see where those reinforcements are coming in from behind us. No, it looks like I'm
Quick march!
on point as to where the reinforcements are coming from.
Spartans! Commander! Advance! Advance! For glory! General!
Whatever. Alright, so
Missile
let's
infantry!
get our missile infantry, start working them into the town center.
Slingers!
There are slingers in there as well.
Speed! Sparta! Quick
Looks like that's the militia hoplite general.
Hippias! Sparta! Engage!
Okay, and this back charge with my Royal Spartans is going to really quickly break those citizen hoplites.
Glory!
Let's get the rest of these
We
guys.
await your command. Spartans!
And this looks like it's going to go pretty quickly. The problem being, I don't know where their reinforcements are still. Fires over here. That usually means that they've gotten to that region. Not 100% sure there, though.
Ready for orders.
Let's get these Spartans over there. Now, as you can see, I've barely lost any actual Spartans, and that's just because they're ridiculously tough.
Spartans!
Quite probably the toughest sort of units this phase of the game. Way, way better. Oh crap, there's the elephants. Way, way better than Hastati, for instance. Even the basic Spartans, not the Royal Spartans. And the Royal Spartans are actually probably tougher than... Yeah, they are tougher than the Praetorian Guard. So they're really, really tough as nuts to crack, these guys, especially early game. As things scale on into the later game, though, they don't really get many options other than Spartan hoplites. So they tend to sort of... In my opinion, they get a bit weaker. That's not necessarily true. It might be that they, these guys are able to carry them through to the end, but I definitely think that they're more an early game faction.
Now! Javelin men!
Okay, so we need to get our javelins attacking those damn elephants, and let's get these guys. We need to get these guys into phalanx formation, or actually maybe even squares. Yeah, let's get our troops into squares here.
Javelin men! Ready! Helots! Sparta! General!
Okay, let's
Ready! By your command!
use mercenaries to
For glory!
attack these elephants. Tie them up a little bit.
Loose! Periodically hoplites!
Oh crap.
Hoplites!
Okay, I think I got those elephants distracted by those mercenaries that I'm gonna just let die. Levy pikemen are heading in. Levy pikemen. We just have to sort of hold this center, though.
Spartans! At the double!
Let's drop in the phalanx here. Around this obelisk here.
Double time! On phalanx now! General! Understood! Ready and waiting!
And as you can see, those elephants are starting to go
Battle is
down
turning
from
in our
those
favor.
accumulated hits. So yeah, they're all dead now.
Hoplites ready!
And that'll pretty much wrap up this battle for me. Once the elephant's down, it's not too tough a battle. I've heard some people saying that elephants are really, really uncounterable OP. That's not really the case, but they are very, very tough to beat there.
Fire on the enemy!
What's this, what is this? Hellenic Royal Guard, yeah, those guys are
At your
tough.
service, ready and waiting. Missiles awaiting targets. Periodically hoplites! Sparta!
Let's get our Spartans over there, and let's get these guys. Let's try and go around those Hellenic Royal Guard.
And the double! Spearmen, ready for horse! Periodically hoplites! Advance at speed! Advance!
Oh, looks like he's sort of slipping past my army to get at these crap slingers, I mean.
Periodically hoplites!
Okay, well, whatever.
Slingers! Periodically hoplites! Spears ready!
So their general is Pyrrhus, who was famous for fighting a lot of winning battles in Rome itself. He invaded Rome, and unfortunately for him, that didn't go over necessarily all that well. He actually won most of his battles, but the problem was that the Roman army was basically able to recruit new men at an instant, regaining pretty much every single troop, and his army couldn't replenish itself, and his battles were all very, very close. So he's actually the general that the Pyrrhic victory, or Pyrrhic victory, is named after. Okay, so I'm just going to get through the load screen, and I'll be back right then. Okay, and we are back on the campaign map. Now, one of the important things about Sparta is they have got that helot repression, so it is actually worthwhile for them to loot provinces. Now, the reason that you would want to do this is that you gain a lot of money right off the bat. Well, not a lot, it's 623, that's enough money, and more importantly, you gain a bunch of helots, or slaves rather, from the local populace.
Waiting for more orders.
So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's going to chase away... actually, I think Pyrrhus might be still alive. Yeah, he may have just gotten away with a fragment of his royal guard. Anyway, we've made it to Larissa. We're just going to repair this. There's a city expansion that hasn't been made use of yet. We're going to spend that on... let's spend it on a farm. Since I don't think I'm going to worry over much about culture right now. We do need to upgrade our armies somehow, but we unfortunately can't. So we are going to have to keep a hold of that mercenary unit for a little while here. Actually, what can I recruit? Yeah, I can only recruit Perioikoi Hoplites and Helot Slingers or Perioikoi Hoplites. You know, that's actually good enough for the fact that I burned down their center. The thing is that I need to get an army ready to attack Apollonia. Simultaneously, Sparta, despite the fact that we've now got some slaves, which normally causes huge problems, as you can see, is only providing -5 unhappiness. Economic effect is giving us additional 14 per turn. So it's not very much, but it tends to ramp up pretty quickly. Once we take Apollonia, we probably aren't going to enslave that populace as well, since that's just a little bit too expensive. You know, I am going to have to get rid of these mercenary hoplites, just because if you look at our income, it's ridiculously low right now. It's 154. If you look at our diplomacy thing here, we're in a trade agreement with Athens, but we have no access to trade here, and that's sort of how things start when you are playing as Sparta. What I can sort of rely on is the fact that Apollonia is relatively undefended at this point in time, because I know his armies have been drawn over here. So that gives me an opening to take over Apollonia. From there, well, there are a lot of different things that I've considered with Sparta. I'm not really sure what the best way to do it is. One of the harder things is to actually unite the Hellas region, for which the Hellenic groups are named after. But you could take over Heraptina. If you're going to do that, you may as well take over Athena as well, wipe out Athens. The thing is that Athens is actually a pretty stable ally for Sparta for the most part. The thing that you could instead do is swing north through Epidamnos and start attacking barbarian settlements without upsetting the Hellenic tribes all too much, or Hellenic factions all too much. The thing is, you are eventually probably going to want to attack Macedon, but once you've taken over Epidamnos, it might not be all that practical to take over Pella, just because Macedon's a fairly strong faction. You do start off with a defensive pact with them. If I recall, they're actually relatively friendly to you as well. Yeah, relatively. It's not great, but it's relatively friendly. And the thing is that, you know, getting the Greek states sort of on your side rather than trying to take them over can potentially be just as lucrative as taking them over without having to deal with that unrest. And then you can use those armies to take over Germania, which is much easier to conquer. One of the things I've been noticing is that taking over other Hellenic factions is a little bit harder than it is if you're Rome fighting barbarians or even fighting Italian natives. So that's a plan of conquest. If you do decide to take over Macedon, one of the things you can do is sort of drive east until you meet the Seleucid Empire and sort of try and fight them. I think they're sort of located near Pergamon here in Ephesus. These are, I think, client states of the Seleucids, but I can double check that. Or I can't because I haven't met them yet, but that's sort of how I view the game functioning right now as Sparta. Once you've sort of established yourself, of course, as any faction, you can just do essentially whatever you want. But those are the sort of expansion paths that I would consider. I would either consider north into barbarian lands, or I would consider east towards the Seleucids. Either of those is probably a legitimate way to play as Sparta. Anyway, let's return to the other side of things, and I'll play a versus match as Sparta. Okay, and here we are, guys. This is my Spartan army here. We've got, as you can see, we got some slingers, we've got some archers that we're going to have just in front. The reason I've got these archers is that they've got these flaming shots, just in case my opponent, which is Carthage, has elephants. And you do need something to counter elephants with this style of army. Let's see here. We're going to have two of our units of Royal Spartans on one flank, and then one unit to anchor our other flank, and then our general is going to be in his own Royal Spartans in the back. My main battle line consists primarily of these Spartan pikemen. Very efficient for their cost, and they better represent the sort of lesser type of Spartan soldier than the good Royal Spartans that I've got as my hoplites. Now, I've got 6 cavalry, which might seem like a lot, but the problem with Sparta is that they've got no good cavalry, so I had to make up for a lack of quality with a good amount of quantity. So here we go. Let's get this all started and see how things go here.
As you command.
Okay, so it looks like he's got some Iberian swordsmen, I would assume. Those are sort of the only really
Double time.
good sword units that you can get as the or Libyan swordsmen, sorry. Those are the only really good swordsmen that you can get as the Carthaginians. I didn't really catch a glimpse of the rest of his army, but I don't think he has elephants, so we'll see how that goes. Elephants, the reason I think could screw me over kind of, despite the fact that these pikes are actually fairly good at dealing with them, is that I kind of need my cavalry to be able to do decisive rear blows against better infantry, and if I can't do that, if he has elephants, it's very easy to counter a lot of cavalry with... Oh no, crap, those are elephants. Okay, well, this is going to be something that I have to kind of high prioritize. He's got 2 groups of them there. Okay. And they're both African war elephants, so those are going to be tough for me if he knows how to use them properly. If he runs them straight forward into pikes, which is always, you know, that'd be a possibility. I might come out of this okay. Now, yeah, these are Libyan infantry, so those are the relatively tough guys, I think. I think it's the Iberian swordsmen that are the weak ones. Okay, his general's bodyguard back here. Just a regular general's bodyguard. Looks like he's staying stationary. He's probably got some units in hiding in the scrub over there. So we're just going to move forward into bow range as best we can without breaking up our cohesion too much. He's got missiles of his own. Cretan archers. Now the thing about archers is that they're very good against other missile units. They're not so hot against armored units, so I'm not too worried about the damage he can do, but they are going to prevent me from skirmishing against him too intensively. Okay, so my opponent is sort of camping this. That's fine by me ultimately, but one of the weird things about the skirmish fight that might ensue is that I kind of can't use my range unit against his range unit just because I kind of have to save mine against his elephants. So, you know, there's that to consider. Okay, he has to have something hidden somewhere. Yeah, there's those Iberian swordsmen, they're pretty lousy. Okay, I want my helots to save their arrows for if he's advancing his elephants further forward. But otherwise, I've got these helots slingers working on his Iberian swordsmen, so I'm just going to let that happen for a little bit. If he just lets me pick away at him for free, that'd be perfectly fine by me.
By your command.
Okay, once he gets up close, I'll start flinging flaming arrows at these elephants here, and that'll do a little bit of damage here.
By your orders.
Yeah, he's going to try and trample straight through my lines here, it looks like. Let's get these guys in phalanx.
Ready and wait.
Let's get these guys all in formation as well. One of his war elephants, due to the flaming arrows, have gone berserk. We're going to run our units back here a bit. His elephants have ranged attack on them, so he is getting some hits on me here, but nothing too serious. Looks like his elephants are sort of stabilized. In they go into those heavy phalanx formations. Still going to be effective, but not as effective, I think, as he would have liked. So eventually they'll start taking some losses there.
Royal Spartans.
Let's get these Royal Spartans from the flank. And yeah, this ought to be sufficient. This one's running amok again, and they're down to like 2 elephants. So this is not how you use elephants. That should be plenty abundantly clear. I think that, yeah, entire unit is pretty much gone.
Speed! Royal Spartans. Forward!
Okay, and I think that, yeah, that's all his elephants
Orders
down.
understood. Quick march! Royal Spartans. At the double. Helots!
Okay, so now I can focus my archery onto
Missiles
his
awaiting
missile
targets.
units. And let's see if I can get my cavalry in here or if he's defending them accurately. I'm guessing there's hidden units around here, so I'm going to be on the lookout for pulling back my cavalry at a moment's notice here. Looks like he's running back too far with these guys to make this feasible. Yeah, I knew there would be guys hidden there to stop my cavalry charge. Looks like he's got some Sacred Band, Carthaginian Hoplites, Sacred Band. So it's a pretty tough infantry line there. I'm going to run my cavalry back before they get too mauled up by those flaming arrows. But I've got the shooting advantage. I'm going to take advantage of it as best I can.
Take aim!
Okay, so what are these? Carthaginian cavalry on my flanks.
Your orders? Ready and waiting.
Gonna
Citizen cavalry!
get an extra citizen cavalry up here.
At your command. Slingers! By your command. Quick march!
Okay, what I want to do is be able to overwhelm him in terms of cavalry numbers. Shoot. Well, 1 second. Okay, and we're back. It's just telemarketers. Anyway, let's get back to the action here. It looks like I didn't really miss anything too important while I was AFK here. Always a pleasant thing when you're fighting this AFK. But, let's see here. His Cretan archers are probably going to be able to win a lot better, do a lot better than you would think in this skirmish engagement than simply because they are technically a superior ranged unit. Now I'm going to rapid advance these Spartans up here. Now let's just keep pounding away at these Cretan archers here.
Sparta! Swift melee
I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to win this cav fight, but looks like I'm going to. I got a better charge angle than he did. These Libyan infantry are not a match for my Royal Spartans that I had on that flank, so that will go in my favor. And we're starting to take control of this missile fight, so we're going to retreat back here.
Your orders.
Let's get our Spartan pikemen in a slightly longer line here.
Advance at speed! At the
Come on
double. Forward!
And let's get these guys back in the fight here.
Ready and waiting.
We'll use these guys to run down at their flank.
Spartan pikes!
And looks like these guys are still in pike formation. That is good. We'll get our general up here to sort of plug that gap. He's charging his general's bodyguard straight into a bunch of my guys, so that's really good. And he's just sort of melee blobbed right into the middle of my pike formation here. Probably not the ideal solution given his predicament. In fact, I would say this is probably the worst decision he could have made given to react to what I was doing. But you can just sort of see how scary the Spartan phalanx is when used in proper formation. A lot of people I'm noticing aren't using their formations properly, and it's really kind of distressing. I think a lot of the problems people are having is kind of stemming from the fact that they aren't properly using formations. Okay, and that's going to charge straight into the back of all these guys here, and that's going to be a pretty crushing blow. Okay. These guys, let's just take out those archers. Let's get these guys up here. I'm just trying to chase down this unit so that they don't rally. They're shattered, so I can get into this other way. And yeah, things are going pretty darn well here. Now, I kind of suspect my opponent may be a little bit newer here, so this might not be very representative of, you know, a Spartan army against a maybe better or more skilled player here. So let's get all our cavalry away since he's got pretty much nothing left but Sacred Band. Yeah, they're gone now too. He was trying to use them to guard the backs, but he had them in phalanx formation. Spear infantry in your back can't actually guard your rear. Okay, my phone left the game. So you don't want to defend your back using phalanxes. You want them to be in looser formations so that they can move quickly enough to adequately intercept cavalry. So that's our victory with Sparta. I hope... Yeah, as you can see, I only lost 188 men. That's sort of the power of them in a direct confrontation like that. What he really needed to do was kill all of my... Oh, he was using the mercenary cavalry. Okay, so what he needed really to do was to just make sure that he got around my flank, killed my cavalry with his elephants, and I used his infantry to pin me down at the front, not necessarily to engage, but then also get rear charges with his cavalry, and that's the only way he could have won that. Direct head-on confrontation against a hoplite formation with the pikes is really dangerous. Anyway, I hope you found this all informative, and I hope to see you all next time.